Hey photographers! An interesting graph from Statista landed in my inbox. Smartphones wipe out 40 years. They discovered a time machine. But the first stop, 1980? When I looked more closely, the chart shows film camera shipments in red increased from 1950 to a peak in 2000, and then digital cameras in blue grew to their peak about 4 times higher 10 years later. As Lyle likes to say, I've had an excellent time so far. It could be all downhill from here. And it may be too early to predict that the decline has even started to level off. I'm a skeptical cynic. I don't believe anything at the headline level. Smartphones aren't really the cause. Even without a canoe, we can do better than that superficial analysis. It is hard to see on this chart, but there are, and will likely always be, some small base level of camera sales to professionals, those who make a living with their camera. And while small, it likely continues to grow as demand for quality photography increases. In fact, and although I could only find data for the US photography market, this IBIS World chart has a general positive trend. Although 2020 is reported on this chart, it's both anomalous and incomplete. The Statista chart reflects consumer camera sales. Let's imagine that the market penetration limiting factor for consumer film cameras was the cost of film and processing, although other factors like complexity and the predictability of success also played a role. Well, that kept the percentage of potential buyers of film cameras low, and for consumers anyway, limited to the hobbyist niche. In the previous millennium, while photos were often printed, and even though many may have ended up in albums, they were not often looked at. Don't start me on those unending slideshows. Now, the digital camera, and Apple was one of the first to put Kodak sensor in the QuickTake in 1994, removed all of those issues. No more film, no more processing, easy to use, and more predictable results. At least you knew right away if you'd blown it. Digital cameras were the hot tech toy for a decade. Technology changed rapidly, and upgrading annually to get more megapixels was not unusual, until good enough, about 16 megapixels, was reached, and everyone had one in their closet. Then the decline started. Digital cameras also had market-limiting factors. It was one more thing to carry, so it often stayed home. And just as a pencil doesn't include the desire to become a writer, owning a camera doesn't provide the initiative to become a photographer. And most importantly, unless you printed your photos, digital meant that there were now even fewer opportunities to look at and enjoy your images. Sitting around a computer was even less appealing than watching a slideshow. Cameras sat in closets, occasionally emerging for birthdays, vacations, and holidays like Halloween. The chart headline links the sales decline to smartphones. But in my mind, that's not the real story. Certainly the smartphone, and again, it's Apple with the iPhone in 2007, makes it easy to create photos, mostly because we never left our phones at home in the closet. But at about the same time, an outlet emerged for those photos, Facebook. Not only did Facebook give us a way to share photos, likes and other reactions added to our enjoyment of those images and incented us to take more pictures. We saw the bangers others were posting and liking. We emulated what we liked about those images, improving our skills, and that quickly becomes a virtuous circle, amplified by other social apps like Twitter and Instagram. More photos, more sharing, more likes, more comments, all incentives to continue to create. And new kinds of photographs emerged. Selfies, flats, boomerangs, all of which encouraged us to create and post more and more images. We learned to wait before starting our meals until all the photos had been taken. And that made the always available phone, which provided instant upload capability and the instant reward for taking the photo, a magnificent enabler. Although many practiced in the art saw it as a deficient device for photography. Now, if the camera in a phone has a limiting quality between the small plastic lens and the tiny sensor, it's quality, which turns out to be in the eye of the beholder. On social, quality isn't much of an issue. On phones, even if the quality of the sensor is so-so, the large, bright, pixel-dense screen is spectacular, and cameras are just about the opposite, so-so screens paired to large pixel-dense sensors. For consumers comparing images on a camera with images on a smartphone, it's no contest. There is a fourth limiting factor of a digital camera, particularly in the social environment. It's an additional device that's more complicated to use. Posting and sharing is anything but easy. Now, I do accept that it's easier than ever to get images from camera to smartphone to social, but challenges remain. So I would write that headline: Social media wipes out 40 years of camera industry growth. It's my thesis that the bulk of the peak was small, inexpensive, disposable, entry-level gadgets anyway. They were a fad, like Beanie Babies and pumpkin spice lattes. The chart doesn't capture the end of cameras. It's the end of a fad of disposable toys. To the end that they had any value at all, phones replaced those devices. Phones did not replace cameras. Not for those who earn a living making photographs, nor for the hobbyists who are passionate about photography and enjoy practicing their craft. While cameras sold for $200 and technology was evolving rapidly, an annual replacement was a reasonable scenario. But at $1,000 and up, and with minor incremental improvements, I'd expect most of us are planning to hold on to a camera for 3, 5, maybe even longer. The real problem, as I've suggested before, is that there are too many manufacturers and too many models chasing a relatively small, but likely growing, group of photographers. One last thought. I watched a documentary about iconic street photographer Gary Winogrand. One fact stayed with me. He left a large number of rolls of film undeveloped, which reminded me that sometimes the pleasure is in getting out, participating and observing. For me, it's often working with the technology to see what it can do, to see what happens, enjoying the practice of photography as I fill up memory cards and drain batteries. Sometimes the end goal is not the photo. And as long as we're doing stats, I got another email with statistics from YouTube this week. It seemed a little early for the hashtag #MyYearInReview. However, it included some interesting numbers. I uploaded 748 minutes of content. Over 17,000 new subscribers joined my channel. Over 2 million views, nearly 60,000 likes, and I replied to nearly 40,000 comments, which must be a mistake, as above they reported there were less than 30,000 comments posted. So statistics, who trusts that stuff? Please, post your relevant questions and civil comments below. Membership perks for those who join my channel include a private email address, so you can correspond directly with me. But subscribers need not worry. No content will be behind a paywall. Please choose the confusingly named option that suits your needs. Thanks for watching. Stay safe.